The role of Ronna McDaniel in the reported incident following the 2020 presidential election in Wayne County deserves a scathing examination for its sheer audacity and blatant disregard for democratic norms. McDaniel, as the Republican National Committee chairwoman, stood at the center of a political maelstrom, a tempest of her own party's making. On the fateful night of November 17, 2020, following a meeting of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers, McDaniel, along with then-President Donald Trump, reportedly partook in a phone call with GOP canvassers Monica Palmer and William Hartman. This call, based on the recordings reviewed by the Detroit News, was not a benign discussion, but a calculated attempt to influence the certification process of the county's election results. In a move that reeks of political arm-twisting, McDaniel is said to have urged Palmer and Hartman not to sign off on the certification of the election results, even offering the bait of legal support. "If you can go home tonight, do not sign it. We will get you attorneys," she stated. This is not the language of democratic engagement. This is the lexicon of coercion and manipulation. Trump's contribution to this call, as per the recordings, further illuminates the gravity of the situation. His words, "We can't let these people take our country away from us," coupled with McDaniel's, paint a picture of a concerted effort to subvert the electoral process. The underlying message was clear. Block the certification by any means necessary, a directive that flies in the face of the principle of a free and fair election. Palmer and Hartman, following this call, left the canvassers' meeting without signing the official statement of votes for Wayne County. The next day, in a move that smacks of political pressure, they attempted unsuccessfully to rescind their votes in favor of certification, citing pressure and coercion. This episode, which McDaniel was a key part of, threatened to cast doubt on the statewide certification of Michigan's 2020 election. It's a stark illustration of the lengths to which some individuals are willing to go to undermine the democratic process, driven by a refusal to accept the outcome of a fair and legitimate election. Let us then, in examining McDaniel's role, consider the saga of Thomas Becket, the archbishop whose fate was sealed by the words of a king who wielded his power with reckless abandon. King Henry II's infamous utterance, "Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest?" led to Becket's murder, a historical event that mirrors the dangerous undercurrents in McDaniel's alleged actions. Like Henry, who never explicitly ordered Becket's death, McDaniel's reported indirect methods of coercion in the Wayne County incident reflect a Machiavellian strategy, one that manipulates without leaving the fingerprints of direct involvement. The parallels are striking. Just as Henry II grappled with the Church's power over state affairs, McDaniel, in her capacity as RNC chairwoman, found herself at a crossroads of political power and the sanctity of the electoral process. Her reported role in the Wayne County affair, if as unabashed as described, is akin to Henry's indirect instigation, a maneuvering of chess pieces in a grander game of power preservation, with little regard for the collateral damage to democratic integrity. This historic parallel serves to highlight the gravity of McDaniel's alleged actions. It is not the overt declarations, but the subtle, behind-the-scenes machinations that often pose the greatest threat to democratic institutions. Like Henry II, who learned the hard way the consequences of wielding power irresponsibly, McDaniel's reported involvement should serve as a cautionary tale about the perils of political overreach. In this light, McDaniel's actions, if as alleged, represent not just a failure of political judgment, but a profound moral lapse. The Wayne County incident, reminiscent of the Becket saga, warns us of the dangers inherent in the abuse of power. It illustrates how the actions of a few, driven by a desire to maintain political dominance, can have far-reaching consequences for the very foundations of democracy. Thus, McDaniel's involvement, if proven as reported, should not just stir in us a simmering anger, but a raging inferno of outrage. This is a clarion call to defend the sanctity of our democratic institutions against such egregious assaults. It demands not just our attention, but our unyielding resistance. For if such blatant subversions of democracy are allowed to pass without severe repercussion, then we are complicit in the erosion of the very foundations upon which this nation was built. In the spirit of those who fought for the birth of this republic, we must not merely denounce but actively combat this affront to the democratic principles they so valiantly championed.